Great pleasure right now to welcome to the program a woman who has put together a very interesting book, and we all remember the Pillsbury Bakeoff, great contest that has been going on. This is the 60th year coming up. We'll talk about that, and just in time for that, a new cookbook called Pillsbury's Best 1,000 Recipes, the best of the Bakeoff collection. We're joined by the senior food editor for Pillsbury Cookbooks, Lola Whelan, today. How are you, Lola?
Oh, I'm great. I'm happy to be here and talk about this great Pillsbury Bakeoff Cookbook.
I think anybody over a certain age remembers watching the Pillsbury Bake-Off. I was a kid when they were still having it on, I think, network television, covered it for many years. I'm not sure if it's on TV now, but that contest is kind of something you look forward to every year, isn't it?
Well, it is, and it started in 1949, and the Pillsbury Company at that time was having their 80th birthday, and they decided that they would create a contest that would recognize and reward amateur American cooks. So that's, your friend next door that's cooking, or whoever. They wanted to recognize them and their cooking skills. So they invited them to enter recipes and narrowed it down to 100 contestants. They went to the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City, and they had a contest to compete for the grand prize. It was such a successful contest, they decided to do it every year. And those first 10 years, that collection of those 1,000 recipes is what is contained in this cookbook. So this cookbook is actually a facsimile. The original book was printed in 1959, and backed by popular demand is the same cookbook with the 1,000 recipes from those first 10 contests.
And one of the great things about it has that look. Any person or their mom, their grandmom looking through their cookbooks, if you can find them, it has that kind of feel to it of an old family type of cookbook. I like the way you laid it out, and like you said, it's a facsimile of some of the pictures that you had in the original one, right?
That is correct, and the recipes have actually become classics. There are so many recipes in this book that people will remember or they still make, and some of those are like French silk chocolate pie from the third Bake-Off contest, peanut blossoms, which is the peanut butter cookie with the chocolate kiss candy in it, and then the Starlight Double Delight cake. It's a 2-layer cake that won the grand prize in Bake-Off 3, and then California casserole. It's a veal casserole with these crunchy biscuits on the top. That also was a grand prize winner back in 1956.
Now, these recipes, were they originally concocted by the contestants themselves? I mean, these are things they made up using, obviously, some of the Pillsbury ingredients, but is that how it came out originally?
That is true, that the contestants would submit their recipe, and for these recipes in this book, every recipe had to contain at least 1/2 cup of flour. And one of the requirements for the Pillsbury Bake-Off contest is that recipes be original. And so when they were entered into the contest, they did a search of the most popular cookbooks and recipe magazines to make sure that they hadn't been nationally published. So these are original recipes that were created by people around America at that time.
And even though you mentioned Pillsbury had been around, 80 years going into this contest, it really was a great idea from a marketing standpoint. I mean, that name you just associate with the Bake-Off, those 2 words or 3 words together, and it was a great idea back then. Who put that together? Is there one person that came up with that idea?
I don't know exactly how it came about, so I'm not sure if it was an advertising agency or one individual person, but nonetheless, we're entering our 44th contest. That will be held this coming April, on April 12, 2010, and there will again be 100 contestants who will compete for the $1 million grand prize. And one thing about the Pillsbury Bake-Off contest is there is no other recipe contest that offers such lucrative prizes.
Lola, how does one become a senior food editor for Pillsbury? What did you do before you got that job?
Oh, I had a love for food, and I have a food science degree. I just love to experiment with food and bake food, and I think one of the things that got me started was a recipe book like this that has, detailed baking and cooking tips. So I would read cookbooks and I would, understand the ingredients, understand the utensils. I learned how to measure properly, and that information can be found in this book. There are also steps for bread baking. So if you're unfamiliar with working with yeast, you can understand the process. There's photos that show you how to knead the dough and how to check the dough to see if it's risen properly. And a special note about this cookbook is that the recipe style is very easy to read. You've got the easy steps, so it should be no effort to learn how to bake and cook just like your grandmother.
Have you found, Lola, that more people are getting back to baking and making desserts and breads and pies and cookies, that kind of thing, maybe with people being home more now, or maybe starting their own businesses as a baking business? Have you found more people going back to that now?
That is definitely true, and I think baking is becoming more economical, or people are recognizing the economics of baking, and they go to that for comfort. There are blogs that people can follow where people are baking recipes and commenting about how they're baking. And I think this book would be a great book for that, or you can have, if you have a book club, you can have a Back to the 50s party where everybody gets the book, picks out their favorite recipe, and brings it to the party. And then you can also do that for your gourmet club. You can have a themed party of Back to the 50s. This would be a great book for that because, the recipes are from the 50s, and there are really some great recipes.
Well, that's a great idea. And Lola, give out a website or where people can get this book.
If you want to find out more about the book, you can go to wiley.com, WILEY.com.
Again, it's coming up in April of 2010, the 11th through the 13th. The Waldorf Astoria, not the one in New York this time, but over in Orlando, Florida, and it's going to be a lot of fun to kind of relive that for people that remember it. And if you haven't, it's a lot of fun to watch that type of contest. And Lola Whelan, we appreciate you taking a few minutes to join us in Sarasota today, and we look forward to talking to you again. Thanks for being with us.
Oh, it was my pleasure.